You can get into all sorts of trouble if you accidentally misgender a trans person, but you can also insult them when you get it right.
This person just came into the bar and said, "Hey, what are your pronouns? You kind of look like a they, them." And I hated that they were right.
You can't win, Soph. If someone obviously looks possibly non-binary, you can't kind of acknowledge that.
But Rita, do we need to keep acknowledging people's pronouns? Do we need to keep doing this in this situation? Is it going to come up where you refer to them as they, them? When
No, I will never refer to someone as they, them, because it's just grammatically incorrect. It's ridiculous. If someone is born male and they transition, they say, "Can you call me a female?" Then I'm happy to do that. But even that, I think, should not be compelled speech. That should be something that you do. You shouldn't be forced to participate in that at the risk of, being charged or being called a bigot or, having been called into HR. Now, let's talk a little bit about Dylan Mulvaney. He's the one who single-handedly destroyed Bud Light's image and cost its parent company billions. Well, they want misgendering to be illegal. I just said they. He wants misgendering to be illegal.
Articles written about me using he pronouns and calling me a man over and over again. And I feel like that should be illegal. I don't know. That's just bad journalism.
Well, there you go. Said in such a gentle, friendly manner, but the message is quite sinister, that if someone misgenders him, according to him, then that should be illegal. That means the cops show up to you.
Then what happens?
You're charged.
What, charged,
go to
fined?
court.
You go to jail?
Fined. Maybe you go to jail. Maybe the fines, you won't learn from the fines.
So
Maybe
is that what we face now, Rita?
Well, that's the very casual, friendly, nice way he put it, but the message is very sinister. The way it was communicated was very gentle indeed. Now, I suspect this flight attendant is definitely a lefty, given her absurd behaviour. Look at the way this flighty loses it.
It wasn't until all the passengers had taken their seats that she saw it, right in the center of the aisle.
I didn't see it happen, but apparently one of the last passengers to board spilled a large amount of what looked like some sort of Asian fried rice situation. And the flight attendant was really, really mad about it.
Mad enough to keep everyone grounded.
She went up and down the aisle and asked each passenger one by one, loudly, who spilled the rice.
The situation continued to get more tense, definitely more awkward, gauging from the expressions on the passengers' faces.
Another flight attendant came and put a paper towel on it and again said, "We are not leaving this gate until someone cleans up this rice."
But still, nobody would confess.
But again, I don't think you want to walk through it.
She gets on the loudspeaker, says again that we're not leaving until this rice is cleaned. So she cleans the rice, but the entire time she's yelling at all the passengers about how nobody was raised right and how disappointed she is in all of us.
Yelling about how nobody was raised right, how disappointed she is. I don't know if she's a lefty losing it or just the world's biggest Karen, but that is, we're laughing because we went on that flight. I can tell you, if I was on that flight and held up for an hour because someone didn't want to do their job, I would be absolutely outraged. I mean, that is a time where the minutes take forever. You want to be on the runway and up and away.
Rita, I think she's in the wrong job. I think she should be a school teacher. She's going crazy there. I mean, seriously, just sweep up the rice and move on. How ridiculous. Imagine paying for that flight and sitting there because she's carrying on like a pork chop.
What does she expect to do if she did find the culprit? Berate them, have them clean it up in front of everybody? I mean, it's not their job to clean it up. It's, if someone accidentally drops something, it's not ideal, but it's part of the job of being a flight attendant, I would have thought. But, Sophie, this is what we're dealing with. Lefties losing it. Never any shortage of content. Whoopi Goldberg, who raised a few eyebrows using the Bible to support the idea of kids getting gender change surgeries. Take a look.
But my God, this is a party that says we believe in parents' rights. You're telling me that as a parent, I'm not smart enough to decide if my child and I need to have gender affirming. Our doctors are not involved. What is going? So I can't decide what my kid reads. I can't decide for my child what my child says is going on. You're telling me your beliefs, and they keep saying it, and I keep saying, what Bible are you reading? Because God was really clear.
Very clear.
I would say this is a new low for The View, but it isn't. They've gone way lower before. It's certainly on brand for The View. What's your response?
Yeah, Rita, every time I see a clip like that from The View, and usually it involves Whoopi Goldberg or Joy Behar, I find myself asking, who the heck watches The View? I mean, some of their clips go viral on my social media feed, but every time that I see it go viral, it seems like we're just making fun of the utterly asinine and inane absurdities that they are spewing out of their mouths on that program. And I guess this is just but the latest. On the first part of this little mini diatribe from Whoopi Goldberg, when conservatives in the United States, especially here in Florida, are talking about parental rights, we talk about parents' rights, what we are talking about is the right of a parent to know what is going on in your child's day-to-day life when you send that child off to school. Because as my friend Abigail Schreier has pointed out in her Substack, in her book about transgenderism as a social contagion, as many others have pointed out, what is increasingly happening in American schools, you have these woke social justice activists who are encouraging the so-called transition of children at schools and then telling them to hide it from their parents. So that is the whole crux of the parental rights, is to know what their teachers are saying to the children, know what the teachers are teaching or instilling or indoctrinating on the children. So it's actually quite logical and it makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure what Whoopi Goldberg is thinking when she's excoriating the very concept of parental rights. On the latter part, I mean, she's saying that the Bible is clear when it comes to transgenderism. I agree that the Bible is clear. Genesis 1:27, the last time I read it, very clearly said we are all made in the image of God. In his image, man and woman were created. So sexual dimorphism, that there are male and female sexes, is not merely an easily observable empirical reality. It is also right there in the Bible. So I'm not sure what Bible she is looking at. I mean, maybe she kind of took out her eraser and erased certain clauses and put in new words or whatever. But I do agree with her that it's clear. She's just dead wrong on what it's clear on.
And you're so right about what you mentioned there about the social contagion. We're just talking about the CDC putting out some data. Number of LGBTQ students or students identifying as LGBTQ jumped from 11% in 2015 to 26% in 2021. So to pretend that this phenomenon isn't happening is just pure ignorance. Now, I thought Joe Biden hit the nail on the head in his speech at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Let's have a listen.
In a lot of ways, this dinner sums up my first 2 years in office. I'll talk for 10 minutes, take 0 questions, and cheerfully walk away.
Josh, wasn't it embarrassing to see the sycophants in the media laughing along, sort of ignoring the fact that he's really poking fun at them? They're the ones who've allowed him to sail through this presidency, not answering questions. When he does answer them, he seems to get cards with names and faces and questions on them. And they're sitting there laughing along like they're not the massive joke here.
Yeah, they are the absolute joke. You're entirely right about that. And you know what? The media has been the joke of Joe Biden's not so funny jokes for a number of years now. Go back to the 2020 presidential campaign. I mean, did Joe Biden get out there in Iowa, New Hampshire? Did he get out there in the swing states like Pennsylvania, Arizona? No. He was literally campaigning for the White House from his basement in Wilmington, Delaware. And every single time that someone on the right would say, you know, why this is a little weird. Why is he just doing this whole kind of shadow presidential campaign from deep within the bowels of his Wilmington, Delaware base? You know, every time an enterprising young right-of-center journalist would raise these very legitimate, very real questions, someone on the left in kind of the Biden sycophancy crowd would immediately shout up, oh, what is wrong with you? This is the middle of a deadly pandemic. He's well into his 70s. He can't expose it. I mean, so these questions have been repeatedly shot down by the by this gaggle of fools, this self-interested coterie of journalists of the Washington Press Corps who have no higher interest than to serve the Democratic Party and their various foot soldiers. That increasingly is what it takes. This is a very sad statement I'm about to make. That is increasingly what it takes to be a card-carrying member of the Washington, D.C. press corps, is not to do journalism, not to report, but to simply carry water the best you possibly can for one of America's two major political parties. And that, of course, is the party of the ruling class and the regime in power, which is the Democratic Party. It's a very sad statement, but in a just world, a president making that statement, trying to be funny about how he's not doing his job, how he's not entertaining questions. I mean, in a just world, that will be scoffed at 6 ways from Sunday. I mean, that is not a funny statement. It is literally him telling the American people, ha ha, I'm really not doing my job that well, and you're going to laugh about it. So it's profoundly, profoundly disturbing, actually.
It absolutely is. And then you've got Karine Jean-Pierre making wild claims about how he answers more questions than any other president ever has. Just bold-faced lies, and they all sit there and nod along.